Good evening, everyone. So, on behalf of Cogni Elements, we welcome you all to our event called InsightX, where we invite top professionals from the industry to share their insights with us. So, for this evening, we have Anand with us. Welcome, Anand. We are really excited today to have a conversation with you. So today on the panel, we have Mr. Zubin and Mr. Sudarshan. Mr. Sudarshan is the founder and CEO of Helioskart.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Angad from Cogni Elements, and on here with us we have Mr. Abhay Bhosle, architect Abhay Bhosle.
Hi.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for taking your time at this point of time. When everyone's busy with their schedules. So glad to have you here. We have Mr. Santosh Burani. So glad to have all of you here, sir. And it's an immense pleasure to have all of you on panel. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining with us here today.
So for our viewers, could you just give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Sure. So basically, I'm Anand Naiknavre, and I head the business process portfolio in Naiknavre Developers. It's a company that sort of looks at 5-6 different segments within real estate. And we've been around for around 36 years, focused primarily in Pune, but we do a lot of work in Goa and Mumbai as well. So glad to be here and happy that I could speak to you about these things.
Thank you so much. So it would be really beneficial if you could just speak a line or two about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, hello everybody, and thank you so much for inviting us for this amazing forum. And I think the way this forum has been organized and the thought process behind the forum, really superb. And I was very impressed to look at the whole the lineup what has been put together. And so we are architects, and I'm a master's in urban design also. So being an architect and an urban designer, I have been trained to look at not only the spaces inside, outside, but also look at how it impacts the whole city and how it becomes a part of a whole macro urban scape as such. So that helps today for us. My firm Migrant has a very good presence in the Mumbai market. And apart from this, we also have a branch office at Pune and at Bangalore. And we work across segments, be it high-rise towers, large urban redevelopments, large, redevelopments is a big typology in Bombay. So we are designers of many iconic projects, and we are also working on several IT parks, special purpose townships. Ingrain today is known for its optimized solutions and its approach towards the PMAY. We have been working very closely with developers and government authorities, and we have been instrumental. We have very happy to tell you that under PMAY we have now crossed more than 1.5 lakh home designs. So we are very busy with the PMAY projects, and apart from this, working with several top-notch developers in Mumbai and corporate houses, and also a lot of institutions and industrial clients.
Mr. Sudarshan, sir, if you can introduce yourself and your company a little bit.
Thank you for, first of all, thanks for inviting me for this exciting session. I am CEO and founder of Helioskart. The genesis with which we started Helioskart was specifically looking at the infrastructure and the real estate sector per se. There are certain inherent challenges that the sector has. And, we started the journey in 2018 where we focused on a pain point that is there in the industry, which is more around how do you manage working capital and cost effectively. And because in the infrastructure space and in the real estate space, more so on the infrastructure space, the challenge is government is one of the key customers for most of the infra projects. And when you look at most of the contracts that most of the infrastructure contracts, they have an inherent negative cash flow built into the infrastructure project. That means that the only way that the stakeholder can sustain and be profitable is by managing his cash flows and working capital effectively. and also the procurement part, which is almost 70% of the cost into most of the infrastructure projects. So how do you get the best out of the procurement, which is more commodity driven? Having said that, we also saw a big opportunity, which is on the government side. It was pre-pandemic and also more so within post-pandemic. Is government itself is looking out for avenues of monetization, and land being the biggest source of monetization for government. And that's where we have started to work very closely with multiple government organizations across Maharashtra, most of them being development authorities, where we help them from conceptualizing the project till monetizing, or create getting the right kind of buyer or transaction, enabling the entire transaction for the government or the development authority. So the space is quite exciting. I think over the next decade or so, this space is going to be much more exciting, whether you talk about housing or you talk about infrastructure across the country.
Right. Thank you so much, Sudarshan sir. Very true. Times are changing, and we don't know where we are going at this moment. But let's just buckle in for some changes coming in soon.
Mr. Santosh, sir, if you could also please give a small introduction of yourself.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Santosh Burani from Burani Real Estate, your property consultant. I'm a realtor. I'm in this industry from the last 26 years. Last year, I wanted to celebrate 25 years in a grand way and have a cocktail party and invite a lot of esteemed clients. But it was a blessing in disguise because I landed up celebrating my 25 years online, and there were more than 4,000 people viewing in Facebook and YouTube. Uh, what I do is I help people in buying, selling, renting, and joint development of properties. I'm a member of BRI, Bangalore Realtors Association of India, and CREA. I'm the president of South Bangalore, BRI. Uh, I'm a member of BNI from the last 12 years. Uh, my USPs are in two major things: sourcing properties for developers. I have been able to source around 55 properties till now for leading developers of Bangalore. We are today apartments or malls or tech parks. And secondly, I specialize in selling high-end apartments and villas to my clients. I have been awarded for this by good number of developers in Bangalore. In fact, last 5 years, I have been awarded by the Ashok Pyramid Group from Mumbai because they launched their first project in Bangalore. I've been awarded as the Realtor of the Year for giving them maximum sales. And as I told you, I'm a member of BNI from the last 12 years. Thank you so much.
Well, sir, congratulations on your 25 years, in fact, 26 years. We wish you, we understand that your grand celebration got cut short by the pandemic, but as you said, it's a blessing in disguise in a way. But we hope to see you in this industry for many more years to come. So thank you.
Is how does VR and AR help with CX?
So I'd like to take this question slightly differently than I would have usually. Typically, what we do see in the market is really the front interfacing technology that like the VR and AR facilities that we provide to our sales teams. But I have found these tools to be more useful in delivering better customer experience, not only in their sort of perception or representational value, but also in the way our architects are being able to resolve a lot of details. We are able to orbit around 3D space, really capture different vantage points of the buildings, the common areas. So a lot of resolution happens at the level of the architect, which invariably ends up with a better delivery. The other area where we have seen that this has been useful is also, surprisingly, for the contractors. Yeah, we've done a few VRs and ARs for some of our projects, some large, some small projects. And we've definitely been able to see that when we showcase these tools, not only to the customer, but even to our contractors, they're able to grasp the geometry a lot better. So an RC contractor will, for example, he'll be able to understand a complicated joint, an oblique surface or an inclined strut, for example, will become a little more clear, you see. So that's the sort of, behind the scenes kind of advantage that we've seen. But also when you are talking of customer experience, you're talking of selling space, yeah. We're in the business of selling space. Real estate mahol ka business hai. So when you're doing that, spatial experiences are super key, and you're never ever actually able to translate so much information two-dimensionally as you are in a three-dimensional model. So being an architect myself, I sort of appreciated this value that VR and AR brings to the table. And we've been able to see that customers who are shown a VR model of our designs or projects, right? They are able to, fully understand the project, appreciate its nuances, all the efforts that have gone into the project, detailing, choices of materials, spatial understanding of how high certain, floor to ceiling heights are, for example. So I think that helps us with quicker conversion. Yeah. And despite people not visiting sites, they're also able to do virtual site visits. Now that you guys are the experts, but there is also a lot of data that you can capture about consumer behavior with your VR model during these site visits. So we've been able to do that, and it really allows us to see whether consumer is spending more time. So if he is, for example, spending more time in the, say, gymnasium, we understand that this customer takes his health a little more seriously. So the sales pitch, when the customer does end up coming to site, can sort of, take a more custom form. And I think there we've seen where we've been able to use these tools tactfully, we've been able to see this kind of an advantage too. So I think that's what I would say from the kind of work that we've been doing so far.
That makes sense. Anand, also one of the things that you said, I really completely agree with. We are in the business of selling spaces. Mahal bechte hai. Quote of the year, to be honest, that's really great.
So yes, so the first question I would like to ask is your basic opinion about, so you being an architect, if I have to put it from that perspective, how we all know right now that, everyone has to go digital, the entire terminology of physical plus digital, making it phygital, right? So with that coming into the picture, how do you think, customer experience can be enhanced using, tools such as virtual reality, augmented reality? So by leveraging these tools, how do you think, real estate sector can be enhanced, the customer experience in the sector can be enhanced?
Amazing question, actually. And I have few testimonials for this whole aspect, and I'll elaborate this particular thing through case studies, live case studies as architects. Pre-COVID, we had designed a project called as Nishchay at Dahisar, around 1,200 units. And the whole, it was a brick and mortar sales pavilion sold through traditional model. And it was a record-breaking sale. In 1 year, the developer could sell 1,200 units in one single project. And that too at a premium rate because of the way we had planned and the compact format. Similar project of 1,200 units, same developer. In the COVID, he sold around 950 units. Now you'll imagine how it was possible. It is not possible to carry out any sales activity in a peak of COVID time, and that was only possible because of the virtual way, the virtual methods that the developers adopted. And believe me, there was not a single lag in terms of the sales response from the buyer, because it was a similar type of project, similar developer and similar context, and the similar sales success. So I will say that nothing less was there. And this itself is a testimonial that virtual sales systems are equally even more powerful, because the cost of operations of these virtual pavilions is negligible compared to the brick and mortar pavilions. So it was a grand success. Last month, another, you will say residential, maybe, it is possible to sell. Last month, another of our, commercial projects in Andheri West called as Unicorn, they sold similar systems, 50% of the inventory in just 2 weeks time. That also, very much, pushed by the virtual experience, because buyers, they could see the whole building, they could see the whole project, and then once they like the project, they could, at sitting at their home or their offices, then they could decide that, okay, I'll do a casual visit, because it was a little bit of an open COVID situation. They could also visit. But I'm telling you, this a system of virtual sales, of creating a virtual system of experiencing, creating a system of giving virtual experiences to the buyer, is going to be here for long and forever. And that is going to be something which is basic, mandatory. It is going to be part of the hygiene of marketing for any real estate project.
Mr. Sudarshan, my first question to you is, would the return of migrant laborers contribute an opportunity to complete the rural homes in the PMAYG?
Yeah, so I think, as per the statistics, there are more than about 50 crore migrant workers from different parts of the country who go across to most of the metro cities, or, I will say these are economic centers, because most of the employment for most of these guys come from these economic centers, whether it is Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, etc. And one of the biggest challenges that do exist in PMAY Gramin is the actual beneficiary, or these migrant workers are the actual beneficiaries, and these beneficiaries not being into their respective villages or respective tier towns is a big impact in terms of the completion of the projects. And on one side, it's a big opportunity that these laborers went back to their respective hometowns, and some states were able to leverage or benefit of the return of these people back into their respective hometowns. But overall, the situation is not very happening, considering that the lockdown was very severe in most parts of the country, where despite of the laborers being available in their respective hometowns, just about 5 to 6% of the total what we can say offtake of or the sanctioned houses could get completed. So the opportunity was there, but now these migrant workers have come back because the urban economy or the economic centers had started to get or started to feel the heat. So it's a challenge that the government will have to address, considering the beneficiaries not being really available at the respective locations.
And Mr. Burani, what do you think from your perspective? How can as a real estate veteran, how do you think you can bridge the gap between technology usage, between the old people or people who are not very tech savvy, and making them more comfortable to getting accustomed to technology, as the technology is going to be the forefront tool for any business development right now?
I think Nada has spoken in length, and how much he has spoken is like an encyclopedia.
Yes.
So I won't take so much time as he took, but uh, actually India is catching up to the technology. Though we are lacking behind, we are doing extremely well. Number one. Number two is, you should always see the positive side of it. Thanks to the pandemic, it's because of the pandemic we all five of us are actually chatting here, because we wouldn't have been able to sit and do this Zoom meeting if this pandemic was not there. Believe me, it has happened because of technology. And because of this pandemic, we got used to technology at a pace than we all could get. Coming to real estate, there is a great scope of us catching up in technology, but I'm from the old school of thought, which says that we have to go personally, see the property personally, because technology will give you certain aspect, but we as Indians, as human beings, need to go and visit the place in person to see the surrounding, to get around the feel of the surroundings, how it is, uh, because it can be love at first sight, but just by seeing the video or going through a drone and seeing that, it makes a difference. So my thoughts are a little different on that. We have to catch up on technology. Whatever India is been doing is extremely good. There's a great scope for future. What Srinatha was saying is absolutely right. There will be a time where sitting at home we can do so many other things, but we are taking baby steps, and I am loving each baby step we are taking. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think so. That's a great insight into this. That everything has its pros and cons. Technology being no different.
So, Anand, moving on to the next question. Do you think builders should adapt to the new age technology to boost their sales digitally?
Now, I have a lot to say about this for sure, but real estate in general has been, we've been slow adapters. I think if you look at the total digitization within the space, it's at 5%, 6%. I think that number has improved significantly, and it will continue to do so, especially because of the sort of COVID acting as a catalyst for that change. We've been able to appreciate, efficient systems where, while we're digitizing, simultaneously we're looking at the old process becoming obsolete. So while we are trying to digitize as fast as possible and adapt to the current situation we're in, which is a kind of almost apocalyptic post-pandemic situation. So there we have had no choice. So developers must, and the credible developers who who sort of appreciate how important a role technology plays in their business will succeed. Just to give you a few case in points, I would say that basics like an efficient CRM system will definitely take precedence. You can no longer do with just that average CRM software, which would not really help you to nurture your leads, give all the reminders, automate the whole process of sales. So there, obviously, technology is key. Now, ERP being the next domain within real estate, and where digitization comes very closely, it's the backbone of any organization. So how straightforward you keep your ERP, what kind of processes that you put in it, if it is HR friendly, how does your team respond to it? Are we really fully utilizing the ERP? What is the extent at which are we doing audits to understand how much the ERP is really used? So I think these are questions that, of course, the new third generation in this business, and I think our generation has been able to adapt to this thinking a lot more, and we've been able to drive this conversation into our businesses a lot more. Having said that, technology in a multifaceted industry like ours, there are just so many opportunities to digitize. So you don't go chasing each and every digitization opportunity that comes towards you. So you have to be selective about the kind of tech you are bringing into the company, to the business, and really make sure that you don't lose focus and start implementing too many things at once.
Right.
So that's something that was a hard-fought lesson for me, at least, where I was implementing quite a few things, and then I realized that okay, we need to slow down a bit and allow some of the older habits to die a slower death, if you know what I mean. So that's been something of interest. But yeah, largely speaking, I think we must all adapt technology for sure.
Right. Survival of the fittest, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Survival
Thank you.
Tech fittest, I guess.
Sectors see a large push in terms of virtual sales. So if you feel like it will, then do you think this will reduce investments in personal clinics?
Yeah, I think part of the answer to this question I had in the first part.
Correct.
That
Yes.
now the demands will go even higher. You would want to have people to experience more. If you go to the platforms like Instagram, Facebook, all the developers are pushing their projects in this forum, and a lot of young people you are able to engage them into the media. And if you see the quality of the presentations, the way they are done, it's way above. And particularly, when you create a complete experience virtual model where the buyer is able to on his own able to decide which spaces he wants to see, where he wants to travel within the project, what is his focus area, and all that linked up to the, what do you call, like the intelligence systems, which picks up the data, like who is looking at what and at what frequency, and creating that data for the developer to approach in terms of sales is completely revolutionized. And that is how record breaking sales are happening. If you have seen, there is a sudden surge in terms of the saleability of projects. Sales are happening in volumes. This never used to happen earlier. This is obviously possible because the digital is making you control more about who is interested and who is not interested, and whoever is interested is interested in what part of the project. So when you are hitting to a target customer, thanks to this whole backward integration, you are able to hit on the bullseye and convert the sales. So I think this technology thing has completely changed the way real estate has been transacted with the end user. It has changed.
Yeah, I think technology is playing a huge role in boosting sales, at least, right?
Did the additional grant given by Nirmala Sitharam give a huge boost to the PMAY? What do you think?
Absolutely, there is no doubt about it, because finally the 18,000 crores and the other benefits that were being passed, you could see a big uptick, specifically in the affordable segment, because the premium segment has still not recovered from the hit of the pandemic. But the new projects that are being launched are sub 50 lakhs. It could be 35 to 50 lakhs are the kind of projects which are being launched. So there are three key factors. In states like Maharashtra, there was a reduction in the stamp duty. So when if you see Q1 2020, and when the lockdown started to open in Q2, there was a huge uptake in Q2, Q3, including Q4. Specifically houses ranging from 10 lakhs to around 40 lakhs. So there were another benefit of additional 1.5 lakh of subsidy for buyers, specifically who were buying these affordable houses. So apart from the interest subsidy, there was additional tax subsidy which was given by government, coupled by the state governments providing them with a reduction in stamp duty. So overall, I feel that at least in the metro cities, the metro centers, the affordable housing segment has really been benefiting.
Right. Let's hope that it continues to do so. I guess time will tell. Thank you so much, Mr. Sudarshan.
So I think, having said that, I think Mr. Burani, I would really like to know your thoughts. Since we are talking about the pandemic and it's been such a pain point for realtors, what do you think? So do you see any specific difference between the second wave and the first wave? Or did you see any substantial development difference between in the real estate sector if you have to compare the second wave and the first wave?
I think nobody was prepared for the first wave, and we all were prepared for the second wave, and now for the third wave also coming in. So when nobody was prepared, if you tell a person that can you sit in your house for 10 days, they will start laughing. And here we were almost 90 days to 100 days sitting in our home and doing. People will think doing nothing, but actually we were doing something creative. Believe me, most of us, or a lot of us, did not waste time during the first wave. We went into our, open the box and think out of the box. It's like, catching the three C's. One is caring, because we became humble. We started caring for each other. And personally, I used to call so many of my old clients and friends and relatives just like that and asking them, what can I do for you? Caring. Number two is think out of the box, become creative, the second C. And the third C is to collaborate. A lot of us took another business. A lot of us started to collaborate one person with the other. And this resulted in so many other things. So the first wave, we saw a combination of these three C's coming in. And second wave, we were prepared for that. And we are actually doing great business sitting at home because we were prepared for that. Believe me, I have told my friends also. In fact, when I celebrated my 25th year last year, I made an announcement that I have done a turnover of around 700 crores in the last whatever years, in real estate. But I also made a commitment that whatever I have, the 700 crores turnover I have made previously, I'm going to do the same turnover in the next 1 year. I'm going to double it in the next 1 year. Few people were laughing. And then I remember the quote from Ratan Tata, which says, if nobody's laughing at your dreams are not big enough. Okay. And believe me, the figures are coming true. In the next couple of months, I'll be proudly announcing my achievements and my success stories. So there has been a great shift from the first lockdown to the second lockdown. People are more prepared, people are more confident, and we are all out to do business because we know it is only a passing cloud. Thank you so much.
Yes, so that is amazing. Actually, pretty inspirational to hear. Such a massive figure in such a short amount of time. So, adding to that, I wanted to get your views a little bit about the government policy. So, you must be aware of the PMAY scheme, right? The Pradhan Mantri Avasi Yojana 2021. Right. So, do you think did the additional grant given by Ms. Nirmala Sitaraman give a huge boost to the PMAY scheme?
So this affects a certain segment of population. Okay, it doesn't affect to the higher class or middle class. So in the lower segment it affects, but it is a fantastic scheme because we have most of the population in this segment. Whatever the PM is doing, if you can see the reviews also worldwide, he's been praised. So it's a fantastic scheme. And coming to your previous questions about NRIs are coming back to India for so many reasons. Number one, the rate of bank rate interests have dropped, so it's a good time to invest. Number one. Number two, the return on investments is much higher. They can borrow at a very less rate outside India and invest the same money here. So it makes sense. And the third and most important thing is Gar Wapsi. They are realizing India is where they belong. So it is time for Gar Wapsi.
Yes, I think that's really well answered. For the NRIs, I think that will be really, this concept would hold really true and close to their heart. This pandemic also has created such a revolutionary change.
Moving on to the next question. What role does technology play in the increased investment in the real estate sector?
Okay, so I think this question could be linked to something I said before, which is that within 3D, and if we're talking about that kind of technology, it's directly related. So even during the lockdown, for instance, when arguably the investments were not happening, people were trying to sit on whatever funds they had, decisions of investments were being postponed. uh, we've seen a substantial difference in the projects which didn't have VR or tech driven sales operations versus the projects that did have VR at their disposal for sales. Because people were not immediately purchasing, but they were finalizing and consuming information digitally while they were sitting at their homes. And eventually that sort of helped when the lockdown restrictions were eased, we saw that all those customers were able to convert better. So the conversion rates were much better. So I think technology does play a direct plays a direct role in bringing investments to the table. I'd also like to talk a little bit about another theory that I was thinking about. Money saved is money earned. So another technology which is sort of allied to almost the VR, AR kind of backbone, I'd say, is the BIM technology that we use for our projects. Right now, there you're able to put together your services, your architectural elements, your structural elements all in one digital model, and then you're able to run clash detection to ensure that there are no geometric clashes, right? So all of this invariably helps us to save a lot of money on site, helps us to sort of look at precision on site, and also it influences time. So invariably you end up saving a lot of time, and that, I mean, as we all know, especially in real estate, where the construction life cycles are so long, 2 years, 3 years, any amount of time that's saved with the help of technology like BIM, any effort that is made to sell faster, are all efforts that eventually help the bottom line directly.
Right.
So, sir, I want to know from an architect's perspective. Nowadays, there's a research showing that the rise in the number of millennial buyers, right? And this is something quite unusual, right? You don't see a rise in millennial buyers, right? So, from an architect's perspective, what factors can you attribute this growth to?
Actually, what has happened in the whole COVID times, and just like little bit pre-COVID, the young generation started learning more about what is quality life as such. The young generation is also traveling more. The young generation is also through the media, focusing on who is doing what, how he is living, what he has done new. They are also in sync of the most trendy things in life. And, if you see the progress of India as such, where a nation which was, they used to call it a hungry nation, where the basic food was a big challenge. That country has moved to a level where you want good things now, you want better options for the given amount. So because the new generation is a little bit carefree in terms of basic necessities, they've already have them inherited from the previous generations. They are trying to park their life in a better housing model or a better community. They want to become part of a more, and for them, the day-to-day counts more than the future. They are sort of not looking at housing only as an investment. The earlier generation
Correct.
was just looking at how
Just a
buying a
long-term
house as an
investment.
investment, and their whole life was going to paying the EMIs. But now this generation is looking at housing more as a end user, more as a, they just want to look at the housing in terms of what better amenities are coming. And of course, the market, the developers, the architects are also responding very well by creating larger projects, by whatever small space is available, trying to utilize the space in the best manner and trying to give more amenities and more facilities to the end user. And of course, the government is also supporting with a lot of things like incentives on the stamp duty. They are giving incentives on the development charges, particularly in Mumbai region. Currently, the window is open for a huge discount on the development charges. So all this has created a push towards more projects, because obviously it's like nobody is happy with what they have today. They want to have everything better and beyond quality. So
A better life, better quality.
Helping the real estate industry.
So Mr. Sudarshan, my next question to you would be, would geographic information system help you find tenable slums and land for redevelopment?
Yeah, and I think, most of the development authorities have been doing this very effectively. Slum Redevelopment Authority, Government of Maharashtra, has already been doing this. Most of the DPs, the development plans, and the strategy around it has been basis the GIS mapping of cities like Mumbai as well as Navi Mumbai. But more so, on one side, technology can aid you provide the right kind of what we can say data. But there are certain ground level realities which or ground level challenges which have slowed down or which perennially have been present specifically for most of the redevelopment projects. So technology is a big aid, including now recently Delhi Development Authority has also gone ahead to map the entire 3,500 square kilometers of the entire Delhi NCR region. But the extent to which the redevelopment will actually take place will depend upon certain local challenges which are much beyond the realms of technology.
Right. Very well said, sir. Thank you for that insight.
What do you think? Would there be a push towards a sustainable approach towards construction in the upcoming year?
Um, I think Sri Hari is into construction. He's a developer, and he's answered each and every aspect to that. For me to add more into that, being a realtor will not do justice. Uh, so whatever he says, I agree ditto on that.
Okay, so that's fair enough actually. So from your perspective, if I have to ask you, from a realtor, if you in your upcoming next projects or in your upcoming years, if you have to probably enhance customer experience, so would you, as would you be the initiator in saying that a tool like virtual reality, for example, because right now customer experience is the need of the hour. So would you be would you in fact push for that bridging the gap between product offering and product experience? So would you leverage technologies like virtual reality as a forefront?
Um, I would not go in for a total virtual reality because, as I told you, I'm from the old books of thoughts. So there has to be a balance between the virtual and what we see physically, because there has to be that emotion, that touch and feel. Because unless a person goes there 4 times or 5 times or even 10 times to see the apartment, to see the mock-up, or to see the quality of construction, uh, only then he takes a decision. Because uh, there are two things in they say in Kannada, Mande Katti Madhve Madi. That means one is to get married and others to buy a house. These are the most important decisions of your life. Okay, so if you're buying a house, you have to be there virtually, you physically, you have to be there physically. So there has to be a combination of technology and in real, going there and talking to a person in life, uh, seeing what is being constructed, talking to a few people around, people who have bought it. So there has to be a proper balance and combination of both the things. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I completely agree that I think we already discussed this, that it's not correct to put technology as the sole factor of revolutionizing the entire industry. But yeah, having said that, I think it has to be a right balance between the offline and the digital and the physical visit. That the new term, as marketing experts use, digitally, is something new in the market, and that's upcoming.
Moving on to the next question. How will the third wave of pandemic of the COVID impact the real estate industry?
Right. So I think the first wave was obviously the hardest because nobody was prepared for it. We saw a huge exodus of labor, which brought focus on to how important they are just to the whole supply chain. And I think the second wave, the third wave, the fourth wave, any further pandemics, I hope not. But I mean, if we're faced with that eventuality, I think when there is a sort of no movement kind of restriction placed, real estate does suffer, right?
Yeah.
You cannot argue any other logic with this, because even in the second wave we did see 50% attrition of labor on sites. That does impact the timeline, that does impact the schedule. So how is it that you prepare yourself for the next wave so that your risk, is mitigated to the best of its possibility? Now, here, looking at your stockpiles, talking to your contractors yourself, leading from the front, visiting the sites, maintaining morale, promising, SOPs, of course, delivering them as well to the labor, so that they know that they have a safe place to work, ensuring, of course, the highest level of hygiene protocol with them so that you don't have any infection bursts in your labor camps. I think these are all things that developers will generally now understand and do much better than they did for the first two waves. So going forward, the impact of COVID per se on construction activities will be lesser than the first two, for sure. Now, looking at the sales, there's typically your measure of how well you're performing month to month would be, your cost of construction. Are you spending the same 100 rupees that you were? No. So if you're spending 50, then how do you try to improve that improve that metric each month? So I think that's an area where developers will definitely concentrate more on. Like I said, preparing your stockpiles. You will, interestingly enough, now the focus has come back onto, labor. So if you see, just in Feb, I believe, there was a more serious restriction on the principal employers to provide PF and ESIC to labor. Of course, they're taking care of it for the first 2 years, but the principal responsibility of paying these dues lands up with the principal employer. Now, as though it does add to our costs, I can't emphasize enough how much of a positive thing this is going to be going forward, because the labor will start to feel secure. And when you secure them, you are, they're the engines of the country finally. So you are bringing that security to the table for them. And that allows them to work without, without facing so much displacement. So I think these things will be positively received by the market. Bringing in more rental stock for, affordable rental stock is another policy the government is looking at. So all of these, though they will take some time, 4 or 5 years to materialize, at least for us to see the first of these results of these ideas, I think all of this, which is sort of COVID induced, these are some of the positive sides of the story, I think.
Okay. I'm glad you have a positive outlook even today. Just before the third wave of the pandemic, really appreciate that. We don't really see that much. So it's nice to see when it is happening.
Yeah. Necessary, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, kind of necessary, yes. So moving on to the last question for the evening. Can 3D visualization help in marketing the product and gauge public perception of the project? I believe you sort of somewhere answered this question in all of the questions. But if you could just summarize it up for us.
I think I can bring that, bring a more focused response to that question. I think it definitely does. I'll tell you a few things we've been doing. I mean, all the dynamic media, be it a walkthrough, be it a VR, all of these sort of marketing tools that we have at our disposal, they definitely increase the awareness and the perception of the project and make it a lot more marketable. So a very interesting film that we did recently was for one of our high-end projects, which is now delivered and conveyance is about to happen. We had modeled the two towers in CG, using computer graphics, and we had done a very broad drone shoot of the surrounding vicinity as well. And we put together a film where the 3D model of the completed structure was mapped into this video, you see. So that sort of really allowed people to understand the project, not only the project, but what was around it. Another project we're doing on the main university road recently, which is under construction, it's a commercial complex. There we, we sort of did a similar exercise, but we superimposed a 3D VR model into a a real photo shoot, a 360 shoot that we did. Now, not only are people able to appreciate the structure and the design and all of that, but they're also able to get a view of what they're going to see. What is that? There's a fantastic view of the agricultural college. Okay, that's nice. Model colony you're able to see. That's nice. So it really helps to complete that picture, in the mind of the consumer. And I think that's absolutely necessary when you're talking about space and space related transactions and sales. So I hope I've sort of done a little more justice to this question.
Yeah. This just reminds me what you said earlier.
Right.
Selling space. We are in the business of selling space.
Right.
So yeah, and so I'd like to come back to the one point that you had made initially about the PMAY scheme. So it seems very beneficial, all around for architects and real estate developers and realtors. So do you think if it's being so beneficial to, the entire sector as such, do you think infrastructure components should also be incorporated in this?
See, we have worked on PMAY since when it was announced, and we have been one of the consultants who have worked and delivered one of the first PMAY projects in the Pune region with the PCMC Municipal Corporation. So that I have seen the whole policy evolve from a stage where it was very nascent and there was lack of clarity, and today where it has come. While we are all praising PMAY, it has helped the end user in terms of the subsidies, that small amount which comes as a subsidy. But as a private developer, not many people have really been able to take benefit of that. There are obviously certain issues which the government and the authorities need to accept, particularly they are asking for too much documentation and clearances before they approve any location. And there are a lot of unrealistic requirements from them. That is one. And secondly, they are, the price packaging, what they are doing. They are, connecting it with the, it's quite technical, which I'm talking about. They're connecting it with the ready reckoner rates and the further. So that is not making PMAY viable in the private sector development. Only government agencies have been truly able to capitalize on the PMAY projects because land reserved under the EWS or land reserved for social housing is free. That cost is not loaded on the project. Secondly, the end user is going to ultimately buy the house at a lower cost. So government doesn't have to spend money. Government has to just channelize the housing process. So they just have to, launch a project and people come ahead and then they buy the house. So the government has been able to deliver houses which are very, very low cost, like 7 lakh, 8 lakh, that kind of pricing for a 1 BHK. So that is really something which PMAY. So PMAY has addressed the housing issue. PMAY has addressed the social housing issue given by developers. But PMAY now needs to address the issue by private developers. As regards the infrastructure, as I told you earlier, PMAY only considers the bracket of the house and the cost related to that. And that itself is a big thing what the government is doing, because it is giving a big amount to the end user. Now, what government projects are doing is that whatever infrastructure within the plot, it is being loaded on the housing and then that cost is being given. Same thing developers will also do. Obviously, the trunk infrastructure, if you are talking about, it has to come from some other infrastructure, because since it is outside the plot which is allotted for PMAY, it will have to be either borne by the local municipal authority or it will have to be loaded on the regional infrastructure or something like that. So I don't think PMAY can take care of the infrastructure outside the site. And since the most of the projects what at least we are working on, they are very large projects. They are sort of self-sustainable in terms of the sewerage treatment, the water supply, the recycling of water. Only thing that is coming from outside is the energy. So I think, and there also we are trying to integrate solar panels wherever possible, extend the common area lighting. The gardens, what we are developing are low water consumption gardens. The fixtures, the fittings, whatever we are using are consuming less water, less resources, less energy. So we are doing our best to reduce the thing. But I guess in short, to answer your original question, yes, PMAY is taking care of the infrastructure, but within the plot, outside the plot, it cannot take care of the
So it just restricts to one particular segment, right? It cannot be a generic thing because it won't it's not mature enough right now to answer, to put into words, I guess,
the
right?
government, it will take care of infrastructure, but within the site, not the infrastructure
Yes.
outside. And the projects are being delivered. So I must congratulate the current authorities and the government that they came out with this policy and they are actually successful in delivering. And I think the whole target is also very closely monitored and they are achieving the target of the housing.
Yeah, I think this scheme has been a big success. It's pretty evident also. Yeah, so I think the last question to sort of conclude would be a very sort of a generic one. Again, from an architect's perspective, given now the pandemic is upon us, I would like to ask you. So how has the pandemic, sort of changed the entire outlook of an architect?
I will tell you what perspective we are looking at and the way we are
Yeah.
working at Ingrain.
Yeah.
So I will talk about two things. The way pandemic has impacted Ingrain and its working systems, and two, what is the architectural thought process where it has impacted us. Okay. So first question is that I will not at all regret about the pandemic and its impact on the systems of Ingrain as such, as our company. We have actually evolved into a better organization. We have been able to, I still remember on 22nd March 2020, we decided to shut office.
March, yes. Yes.
And on 26th or 27th, we were up and running with a server connected to everybody's homes. We just shipped all the computers to people's homes, and we have made offices, which the whole office became like a cloud office. And since 22nd March, we have not opened our door. Today also, we are operating on cloud. So our office is still virtual.
That's great, yeah.
And the server just stays at the office. And it has completely changed our perspective that people can collaborate. Complicated things like communicating smaller aspects of architecture design, they are also possible through screen sharing, through sketching online. So all that questions has gone. Secondly, we have been able to connect with many new clients because we were able to spread our reach in terms of geography thanks to the various platforms. We got a lot of new projects from cities across India. So we were able to extend our footprint. Thirdly, we were able to onboard a lot of people who had constrained to travel to office. So like we now have staff across cities of India. So they are very much part of our culture, and it's just like a seamless office. Now, the second question what you asked was that, has it impacted our design philosophies or the way we design? Yes, developers have come out with requirements from client where there is a need for a small home office. So that obviously has become a part of our home design. Secondly, amenities which were designed for a X population, we have made them more spacious in terms of handling situations like this. Thirdly, things like security, surveillance, who comes into the building, who moves out from the building, those have been re-looked at. Wherever possible, we have removed the requirement of extreme outsiders to directly travel up to the unit. So we have smaller things like dispatch and delivery rooms, common areas, all those have been designed. So all these smaller things have been impacted. Having said all this, previously also a lot of pandemics have happened. Worse things like plague and all has happened. But again, people came together. It was again a celebration time. So mankind has managed COVID very well. And I don't think the whole attitude of social distancing will be there after 1 year or maximum 2 years. The whole thing will just go out. Obviously, people are in countries like India, people have understood the importance of hygiene. All that will also have a better impact in terms of people's approach. But yes, COVID has impacted positively for working systems by reducing a lot of cost of unnecessary physical meetings. People now think we are working with projects and clients where we have never met them physically, and the construction has started. Not even, it's a miracle. We never thought that could happen. So that has changed. And second thing is that it will not impact so much in terms of that people will, start social distancing forever. That will never happen. People will come together. All offices, schools, malls, retail, religious buildings, everything will just thrive back to its original glory.
I really like that positive outlook, because I honestly feel that the pandemic, at least for the business, has been a positive change.
Yeah.
And the fact that you mentioned that, your clientele reach increased because everything started happening virtual, the whole physical constraint got eliminated.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been more of positive, impact to us. So yeah, so thank you so much for your great insight. Actually,
You guys at Cogni Element are doing fantastic job.
Yeah,
Whatever
thank you.
revolution the industry has seen in last 3-4 years, you are one of the most prominent players in that whole revolution. You have pushed the limits, and I'm hoping that you do more. You do a lot of new innovations, and the industry will always thank your innovations forever. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind words. So
So, Mr. Sudarshan, my last question to you would be, under the scheme, the government will provide an interest subsidy of 6.5% on housing loans for 15 years from the start of the loan. Should this be increased to 20 years due to the pandemic? What are your overall thoughts on this?
So one is that the tenure part is typically is decided by the financial institution, and today there are financial institutions who are providing a 20-year kind of a horizon. But the problem is somewhere else. There are two parts of the problem. So when we talk about affordable in real sense, okay, and when we look at our country per se, we oftenly mistaken ourselves by saying that a 40 lakh property or a 45 lakh property is affordable. Imagine when most of our countrymen are earning whatever the per capita that we have. So ideally the affordable segment per se is in the range of 10 to 15 lakhs to 20 lakhs. So that's the philosophy. So even government of India under PMAY, the way they classify it is economic weaker section are people whose annual income is 3 lakhs and below. Okay, so somebody who is earning 3 lakhs and below, imagine how can he buy a house which is about say 35 or 40 lakhs. So the private community is predominantly catering still to the low income group and the mid income and the high income group. There is a huge chunk of population which is on the lower strata, where the 10 to 20 lakh population, which is I will say, just like how you had the word called unbanked in financial institution. So this is a very similar terminology when we look at it, that they still stay in shanties or not that appropriate units. So that is that is the first part. The second part which is there is, when you have an income level, the financial institutions also should look at that segment in totality. That means that if somebody who is self-employed or somebody who is working like a maid or in an informal kind of sector where there is no proper documentation, and there are only few financial institutions who have gone ahead and who have assisted these informal sector people to actually build that kind of a documentation. So that is also one of our endeavors, to work back with financial institutions and help some of these informal sectors or semi-formal sector employees to get back. So that is the second part. So on one side you have the pricing issue, okay, which is driven predominantly from different stakeholders or developers. On the second side, you have the problems with respect to banks, because financial institutions, whatever they say, they paint everybody by the same brush. So they don't understand informal employee or a semi-formal employee or a formal salaried employee. So they will paint everybody by the same brush of saying that everybody is salaried, everybody will have a supporting documentation, and everybody will have an ITR that will be there in place. And banks also are more what we can say secure to provide or extend loans to that segment. But the irony of the situation is the loans and the defaults in the lower segment are much lower as that compared to the loans and the defaults in the higher segment. So it's like a chicken and egg situation that exists today. And I think, once there is more data, formal data to support, government is doing its bit, but I think the financial institutions will also have to create and not paint every customer segment by the same brush.
Right. Very well said, sir. Very insightful. I don't think before this even I had personally thought about this the way you just phrased it. Because yeah, I mean, whenever you approach a financial institution, it's very difficult. As a person who has an income, it's very difficult for us to kind of empathize with the people who are into, like you said, semi-formal or informal situations, and they're the ones who really need it.
So where do you, it's a very generic question. How do you see the real estate sector 10 years from now?
Yeah, so 10 years back, so if you take this iPhone, can you tell me how many years back iPhone was launched? So iPhone was launched just around 12 or 13 years back. Okay, so 10 years from now, कल क्या होगा किसको पता, अभी जिंदगी का ले लो मजा. It is like that. But coming to real estate, I see a lot of change happening. Like if you see in US, when a person has to sell a property, he has to go through only a real estate consultant. Okay, he cannot sell it directly, number one. Number two, here the real estate consultants are paid after the transaction. Okay, and there are a lot of times where they negotiate with the realtor after the transaction is done, and many of them don't even get paid. But in US, the money is given to the advocate and the money is kept in an escrow account. First the advocate is paid, then the realtor is paid, and the balance money is paid to the person who is selling the property. So I think that is slowly going to come into the picture. Number two is, I would like to end with kind of an advice with a lot of people who have been struggling here. Don't see a challenge in all the opportunities. These are opportunities. See an opportunity in every challenge. This is the golden line. Whenever you see a challenge, see an opportunity in that, because times are changing. We have to change. If we don't change, we will not be able to catch up with the times. Thank you so much.
That was a lovely line to end, see the opportunity in challenge. I think that's a very positive mindset we all should be having, not just in real estate, but in life as well, I think. Thank you so much, everyone, for your, very insightful knowledge based on your experience. I would personally like to thank all of you for taking out the time and giving us your, knowledge, imparting us knowledge of your experiences and, all your insights. So again, once again, I would like to conclude the session by saying on 21st, we are having our, InsightX event where we are celebrating Cognitive Elements' third anniversary. Would really like if all of you can virtually join it and, be a part of us. Once again, thank you so much, sir, all of you. It was great having you all. We would conclude our session right here. Thank you so much.